Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk a little bit about pen names. So yes, we are sitting here again. I kind of liked it. It's just a little bit different. Usually I feel like it's very formal when I'm sitting at a chair, like in front of the desk, which is the same space where I do my day job and like all my admin work and things like that. So it's, I guess it's very like early 2000s YouTube to sit on the floor to film, but that is what I'm doing now. I missed that entire era, so I am now in my floor sitting era, but there will not be any crying on the floor. I can promise you that. So today's topic came to me kind of just at random, and that's how I'm planning to manage things this year with this channel, just whatever comes up as I'm working, because I'm doing a lot with Stygian this year and trying to take it to the next level, and also all my other projects, etc., etc. And so there's going to be a lot that just comes to me. And that's also how we are working with the Writing Craft podcast this year. There's going to be a new episode coming out, I think, next Tuesday or this coming Tuesday, and it's going to be a little more just on the spot, in the moment, whatever is happening in our lives right now. So pen names came up because we had our submissions for the next Stygian zine, issue 3, which is out now. I don't have a physical copy yet, but I will, and then I can show you. It's really, really pretty. And not only that, but I was talking with a few different friends who are doing things with their pen names, other people doing things with stage names, and I just thought, that's a topic I've never actually talked about. And then I thought, is there much to say about it? And I think there's enough to say, and it's just kind of a curious little thing. So thinking about it made me go into a tiny bit of research mode. I didn't want to do a mega research thing about this. But what is the history of pen names? First of all, I guess, what are they? I'm going to assume that people know, but just in case you don't, I do try to make my channel really accessible for everyone, like no matter what level of writing you're at. So a pen name, or a nom de guerre, also nom de plume. Nom de plume is what you hear a lot, but nom de guerre is actually the appropriate phrase in French. It's kind of funny. The English changed it to plume because guerre is a word for war in French, I believe. And so they thought plume, like pen, or, you know, the feather, the plume on a pen, made a lot more sense. So it's French, but it's not French when you hear nom de plume. So all of these words are names that authors use that are not their legal name. Now, my first thought when I was doing this research and learning about nom de guerre and nom de plume was that the thing that I've heard most historically about pen names is that they were used largely by female authors who wanted to get published, and in a largely male authoring publishing world way back when, it was easier for them to get published if they used a male name. In some cases, like, you know, you would not be read at all if you were a female writer, so you absolutely had to use a male name if you were ever going to get anywhere with your writing. So I did research this, and I thought maybe there was something else to do with it as well, but that really was the primary thing that created this whole concept of the pen name. One of the first times this was mentioned was in the 1800s by an author named Bayard Taylor, so it might be back before then. I would assume it is, because that is still relatively modern, but, you know, if we're thinking printing press, etc., etc., that is when you started hearing about this sort of thing. Noteworthy female authors who published using male names were the Bronte sisters. They kept the first initial of their first names, C, E, and A, but they went with the names Currer, Ellis, and Acton, and used the last name Bell. There were also authors like George Sand, who went with the name George, not only because she was, you know, pushing the envelope with sexuality and gender and just her identity. She wore men's clothing quite often. People would look at that name and just sort of assume, oh, George is the author, and they would just be more likely to read it. Kind of dumb, right? But this did wind up flipping around a fair bit, and by the 19th century, female lit had become so popular that there was a male author who used a fake female name. And that was William Sharp, who was known as Fiona Macleod. And there are many people who do this to this day. So now, at this point, you have a lot of women who will pick male names for one reason or another, and males who will pick female names for one reason or another. So with that tiny bit of info, I guess I'll start by talking about my own personal pen and stage names over the years. Some people might be curious about this. And the stories are kind of fun, and the reasoning, like there is a reason behind all of these. And I think if you're trying to pick your own pen name or just learn more about this process and why the heck authors are doing this, it can provide a little bit of insight. So my legal name, I'm not secretive about it or anything, it's Holly Kinjierski. And the first thing that I thought when I was thinking up a different name, which was, oh my gosh, way back in 2012 now, I think. That was when I was still in Winnipeg. And the reason I was thinking of using a different name was not for writing, but it was for performance and modeling and photography and stuff like that. And there were two reasons why I did this. One was I was in the MySpace era still, and if you were a part of that, everyone had like a cute little MySpace name, and they usually used the same initial, or they had like, I had this one friend who called himself like Michael Motorcycle. If you were not of that era, it was a time. It was great, honestly. I miss it. But it was such a strange time of weird personalities, and there was a very defined aesthetic and everything like that. So I wasn't deeply in it, but I was very much steeped in that kind of visual and verbal atmosphere. So when I finished college with my certification in photography, I was mostly doing visual art, but I got into modeling. And I'm not like your typical kind of model. I went to one runway tryout just because I was interested in fashion, and they told me I couldn't do it because I had too much of my own style. And I was very upset about it very briefly, and I was like, why am I doing this? This is not my kind of thing. And then I learned about alternative modeling, and that was way more what I wanted to do, because I wasn't modeling to try and be like either a clothes rack or to show off something about like my body or anything like that. I just wanted that extension of the visual element that I worked in with my art and with my photography to extend into just like my own persona. And a really good way to work on my own photography and my visuals and to get stock images and stuff for my drawings was just to do it myself. So that's the long-winded explanation of how I got into that. And I needed a name. And the reason I wanted a name was because of the MySpace thing. And the other one was just because my last name was kind of difficult, and it didn't just, hit you in the face really easily. It wasn't something that people could lock into their brain right away. It didn't sound like a brand, like growing up, I didn't get teased for it, thankfully. But I did, like everyone I met, I had to explain how to spell this name. It's like 11 letters long and there's a Z in there. And I did have one friend who just was like, I'm just going to call you Holly Kindergarten. I'm like, please don't. So with that name, like, I like my name. I really love my Slavic heritage. Like, my family immigrated here, and, like, it's important to me. And that is something that has come along a bit more recently that I've felt better about. But back then, coming up with a name, it was not ideal. So I went with, at the time, Holly Halftone, because you get that HH. And also I was doing stuff in the comic industry, like I was doing graphic novels, and my dad's background, like my dad is a comic colorist and a writer. So halftone patterning is those little dots that comics used to be colored in with, like before they were being colored with Photoshop. So I thought that's really cute. Holly Halftone, it rolls off the tongue, it's kind of punchy, it's comic-y, and it just filled in everything that I wanted. So that was my first stage name that I was using, and that carried me through quite a few years. I was doing that for my alternative modeling. I had all my like social media presences like that, and my website, and I did that for my live art event, all of these different things, and it was really, really good for that. Now, the reason I changed my name was because in 2020, when I started getting into writing, you'll find that I do have a Holly Halftone YouTube channel that I use for gaming. I haven't in years, but I'm thinking I might bring it back if I ever have time. Like, that would be a passion project just for fun when other projects are sort of running themselves more, which might not be for a while. But yeah, you will find a Holly Halftone page. And I think I used to call myself Holly Halftone on this channel when I first got started too. But when I started writing and I started thinking about my genre more, I was like, Holly Halftone doesn't seem like something that is going to carry me through to the next phase of life. I don't know if it's just me, but for me, it sounds like kind of an immature name. It sounds kind of like pop culture, and that's what I was going for at the time. So it worked for what I was doing. And also, I just sat there and I was trying to picture myself as an author at like age 60 and be like, is that Holly Halftone? It's not. There was the option, of course, at that point to just go back to Holly Kinjierski. But then another issue arose in the fact that, what I already mentioned, my dad is in the industry. He's a writer and a colorist, and it's a unique name. So when you look up Kinjierski, you're going to find my dad right away. And he's been doing this for, years and years and years. So he's got this established platform, right? And a lot of people know him. He's won coloring awards. And while it's nice to think of people looking me up with that name and going, oh, she's following in his footsteps, doing artistic stuff, and it's kind of like this, family legacy or something like that, I do like that. I didn't want to, A, have to compete with his SEO, and B, I didn't want anyone thinking that should I gain some sort of success, that it was because of riding on the coattails of a parent. So again, I'm not secretive about this, it's fine. I just wanted for the general optics to have a name that would be completely my own, that I could build. And while my parents have been, hugely helpful over the years in supporting me and inspiring me and helping me to hone my craft, things like that. Like my mom is an editor. She's the editor-in-chief at Stygian. She's done stuff for lots of big names, etc. Neither of them have ever actually given me like a tangible leg up that results in some sort of notoriety or finances, that sort of thing. So I have really built everything that I have from the ground up, and I wanted, at least on, the first initial face value that people see, that they understand that. Now, where the name came in, Holly Rhiannon, my middle name is Rhianna. My mom called me this because the name she actually wanted, she had to change it slightly just for the flow of things. Editor mom. So Rihanna is actually after Rhiannon, the Fleetwood Mac song. And when I was thinking of this, I thought I really, I like that element. She named me Holly after Holly Golightly, which is also super cool. I'm like, okay, Holly, I'm gonna keep my first name. And for the last name, I don't want to say Rihanna because it doesn't sound final, like Holly Rihanna. I could. Also, I've had people bring up like Rihanna, the pop musician, and I don't want any of that, right? So I thought, well, why don't I just take it back to what she originally wanted? And Holly Rhiannon was born, and that's something that I feel can take me through my entire writing career. And that's my pen names. All right, now, where it comes to just sort of discussing pen name etiquette, that sort of thing, like what you should do, what you may be wondering about when it comes to pen names and advice that I can give with them, let's look to a couple scenarios. I'm going to start with one that is very familiar to me because I have done this in various ways many, many, many times over the years, and I'm trying to stop doing it now, and that's the too much element. So as someone who does a lot, I think I say it every single video, I need to stop saying it, but as someone who does a lot, it's hard for me to figure out how best to consolidate all of those things onto places like websites and social media platforms. So in the past, I have had a history of really dividing it up, like having an Instagram for my art, having an Instagram for my writing, having an Instagram for my photography, having an Instagram for my modeling. And that is really, really stressful, and I don't recommend it to anyone. When you're starting out, it can feel like that's the best way to do it, especially if you are like a little bit OCD or, maybe ADHD and sort of want to put things in their like specific places, and that's going to help you organize it. Me. But I would recommend resisting it and just working on building that persona of you. So now if you look on my Instagram, you'll see that there are some modeling photos. I do that less these days. I don't have time, but I am going to be doing a shoot coming up in February that I'm excited about. You'll see some photography, you'll see writing, but I've figured out my main thing, which is writing, and that's mostly what I post about. And if I'm posting a photo that either is of me or that I have, taken myself, I'm usually including something about writing in that description. So it does merge it all together. And that's the first thing. Now, luckily, I have not split that up by pen names too much because that would be That would be really annoying to untangle, because if I had different pen names and stage names, like there was a time where I was sort of entertaining this Holly Halftone, Holly Rhiannon thing, and I do have that gaming channel, and Holly Halftone is a great name for that. I don't want to separate that out too much, because it's just going to become a mess in the end. I don't recommend it, okay? I don't. Maybe it works for some people. If you are one of these people who does that and it works for you, like, feel free to share your pages below and show everyone else, like, how that does work for you, because, I mean, there are different methods for everyone, right? So that's one thing I wanted to touch on. Another one is how you choose your pen name, right? And why you might choose it. I have explained the story behind mine, and you might have stories similar to that, you know, not wanting to be associated with someone like a family member for either good reasons or bad reasons. Or you might want something that sounds, fits a little bit more into your genre. And this is what I think we commonly see a lot. And when we talk about, male authors changing their names, or female authors changing their names for kind of like these perception ideas, a lot of, maybe I won't say a lot because I don't have any data on this, but I have seen before male authors who want to write romance and they will change their pen name to a woman's name just because I guess people just sort of assume that's going to be like a better romance if a woman has written it. I think that's probably it. Like, I have seen that, and I've seen women change their names to masculine names because they're writing something that's more like crime, that has a male reader base. I think that crime and, like true crime, not true crime. True crime is very, very, very feminine these days. But the gritty cop crime, that kind of stuff is classically more read by guys. And so that is one reason you might want to do that. I don't think you need to. In this day and age, women can write anything, men can write anything, anyone of any gender can write anything that they want, right? That being said, if you are writing in multiple genres that are very different from one another, I would recommend separate pen names. It makes a lot more sense. It can be tricky for the reasons that I listed about keeping those different presences, but if you are serious about this and say you want to write crime and you want to write romance, let's just stay on those. You want to write those two topics. Those are quite different from one another. They have very different audiences. They're going to have very different agents, and you should probably split those up. Now, for me, I like writing sort of gothic, horror, historic fiction, and I also like writing high fantasy. Those are different, but they are not different enough the way I do them for me to need to do this. So in my more horror stuff and historical, I usually have fantasy elements. So with A Time When Demons, that was a sort of crime murder mystery, but it had witches, right? And that brings it into, my foot's falling asleep, the dangers of floor sitting. That brings it into more of that fantasy arena, right? That can merge it in with my fantasy readers. And in my fantasy, you'll see this if you read my Centera series, which hopefully you will. I'm crowdfunding for it right now, link down below. I do have characters that are like vampires in there. So my audiences do merge really well. Okay, so let's just say solid crime, solid romance. Those are not going to be the same readers. Those are not going to be the same agents. In that case, get different pen names, please. Once you've done that, actually first, before you do that, like I said, make sure you're serious about this, because if you are an established romance writer and you're curious about crime and you want to start, find out if you like it first. Start writing it, see if you can finish a book, see if you have another book in you in that genre. Maybe it's a one-off project. So don't go setting up your entire, multiple platforms based on multiple genres if you have not explored all of the genres first and know that you are going to be writing within them. All right, so once you've done that, let's say you are the crime romance writer and never the twain shall meet, you will need to set up your separate platforms. And this is one thing that I want to warn people about as a publisher. When you are querying stuff, you really, really need those separate platforms. Like, please, right? Like, because it can be confusing for people. You need to think of yourself as two different people. These are not the same thing. You don't want the same thing on the website. You don't want the social media mix. These are two totally different people. When you're sending queries out as one, you are that person. You are not to mention that other name in there. It's not in your bio. You are one person and another person. And I say that primarily for the query and publication process, just because you really don't want to muddy the waters. You don't want to muddy the waters with the agents and the publishers that you're working with, and it can just be kind of, confusing to their process. So if you do, however, want to link them, like me not using my legal name but still being open about it and explaining why I don't use it, that kind of stuff, if you don't want to be like secretive and completely like hide one life from the other life, which you could also do that, especially if you're a erotica author. A lot of people do that. It's very secret that they write erotica. But yeah, like you can link them. You can tell people. You can post on your Instagram story every once in a while, like, oh, by the way, did you know that I also write crime? You can find it under this name. Follow me on this page. You can do that sort of follow for follow. And on your website, in your like full website bio, which is different from like the little bio or blurb that you're giving to people when you're querying, because that should be about the project that you're querying. You can put it in your bio, like, for my crime stories, follow me here, and that sort of thing. Yeah, and I think that that's pretty much all that I wanted to get into about this. I got inspired just through a variety of different things that were coming up in my life just in the past month or so, and I thought it was a good time to talk about pen names, and I've been talking for almost half an hour, so I guess it was an alright topic after all. Let me know, though, if you liked it. Also, again, if you like this new kind of casual format, I feel like I am back to YouTube 1.0, which is something that I never even really did much of. My first video was a little more improvised, but I have had zero confidence about doing this, and my script is my comfort blanket, and I'm not using it. I have like 5 little point form notes on my phone, and that's it. And yeah, I think I like it. I hope you like it. Before I sign off, I just want to give you a couple little updates. If you've been looking at my community tab, you've seen that sprints are back. I have them scheduled for February. You will be able to see them in the live tab on my channel already, and you can hit the little bell, I think, to get notified when they're going to happen. You'll get a notification like half an hour before or something like that. They're pre-scheduled, so you'll know the time. It's going to be at, I believe, 1 p.m. Eastern on the 8th and then the 22nd, and we're going to sprint for probably 2 hours, so like 1 to 3 Eastern. It'll be really good to get that going again. I've missed it on this channel, and it's going to be just nice to write and chat with you all again live. I am actually sprinting every week, but it's only every second week on YouTube. For those alternating weeks, I am going to be running sprints on the Stygian Society Discord server. So if you'd like to do some text sprints, I'm not going to be on camera for those, then you can join the server if you have not already. It is an awesome little community, not even that little. We're at over 400 members, which is really exciting. I haven't been that active in there recently. It's very hard for me to keep on top of it, but I'm hoping to be more active in the new year. I did dip in to update the Discord sprinting schedule on there, and I saw that people have still been, communicating and sharing their writing and stuff like that, so it's really cool to just see it functioning and existing and thriving on its own. But I am going to be a lot more active, especially because we have writing conclaves coming up in March and also July. And those are, of course, with the Order of the Written Word, my AI-free writing challenge. Also, if you haven't yet, please head over to Ream to beta read Sintera. I'm still calling it Sintera, but it's book 1 in the saga. I have a temporary name for it, which is The Hidden Kingdom. I would love to use it, but there are a lot of other books with that name already, so I might not use it in the end. Chapters are free. I have tiers like on Patreon, but I have decided that a good number of them are going to be free because I really need the beta readers. So Please head over there, check out the chapters that are out so far. There will be 3 or 4 now when this video goes out, and you can see what that's going to be like. You can give me your feedback. You can let me know what you like, what you don't like. Please be nice. And I hope you enjoy it. Also, if you just believe in me and want to straight up fund the project before reading it, you can go to stygiansociety.com/scriptorium, which is where we are doing crowdfunding from now on. Instead of working with Indiegogo or Kickstarter, we just want to take it into our own hands, and I feel like we've already earned our stripes, and you can check out our, successfully funded projects, our resume, and know that you can trust us through the scriptorium system. And there's also another project that you can fund there if fantasy is not your thing. We are funding for the Haunted Montreal Haunted McGill book, which is the tour that the company is not allowed to give. You get to learn all about the ghosts of the hallowed halls of McGill University. That's a pretty cool one too. That one is 16% funded. So if you want to push it even further, you can go and check it out. That link will be in the description, probably in the pinned comment. I will try my best to remember. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Do you have a pen name? Why do you have a pen name? Do you have multiple pen names? How has it been keeping them separated? Do you keep them separated? Let me know. I'll be back for sprints on Saturday, February 8th, and with another video the Thursday after that. But until then, I hope that you are having a day that is just as wonderful as you are. Thanks for watching. Bye.